What's up everybody, welcome to Make Things Tiny. My name is Mick and today's video is all about tiny house communities. Today I'm talking to Katie. Katie is the manager of Tiny Tranquility, a fantastic tiny home community right on the Central Oregon coast. So you're going to learn more about the community, which is in Waldport, Oregon. You'll learn a little bit about Katie as well too. Before jumping into this conversation, I just want to take a second and thank the sponsor for this video. This video is sponsored by Poplar Creak Tiny Home Village. If you're dreaming of embracing the tiny life, then Poplar Creek Tiny Home Village is the perfect place for you. Nestled in western North Carolina in Rutherford County's scenic landscape, Poplar Creek perfectly blends nature with modern comforts. The community has septic connections, municipal water, 50 amp service, and high-speed internet. You'll have all the conveniences of a traditional home in a sustainable, compact living space. The communal amenities include a fire pit, pavilion, and garden to create a warm sense of community among neighbors. Spread across 10 wooded acres with 30 home sites, you'll be surrounded by nature yet close to the quaint downtowns of Rutherfordton and Forest City. You're also just under an hour away from Asheville, North Carolina, and an hour and a half from Charlotte, North Carolina. For those seeking a lifestyle that values simplicity, community, and environmental consciousness, Poplar Creek Tiny Home Village presents an inviting haven in the heart of western North Carolina. Join others on their journey towards a more fulfilling way of life, where the beauty of nature meets the warmth of human connection. So if you're interested in learning more about Poplar Creek, please do reach out to the owners. The link to their website is in this video here in the description. Also, there's a link to their Instagram so you can check out what they're doing, get updates as they continue to move towards rolling out the first phase of their community here in a few months. And then also, if you're new to the channel, please do take a second to subscribe, tap the subscription button. There's a little subscribe button down at the bottom of this video. It really helps me out, helps me continue to grow the channel and do something that I love, which is create awesome content for you all around tiny homes. Tap the notification bell so you find it when I drop new videos. I drop new videos every single week. So, all right, without saying too much more, let's jump into this conversation. So I'm here today with Katie. Katie, thank you so much for being on the channel. Katie's the manager of Tiny Tranquility, which is a phenomenal tiny house community up in Oregon. Can you just take a second and tell me a bit about yourself, sort of like what got you interested in tiny homes?
Yeah, thanks so much for having me on today. I'm really excited about this. And I love tiny houses, so I love being able to talk about them. My husband and I actually both got in the industry, gosh, about 7 or 8 years, actually longer than that. But we got connected with Tiny Tranquility about 7, 8 years ago because we were renovating vintage trailers and tiny houses for mainly just to sale. So we had started a dealership and we were fixing up these small spaces, mainly campers, and transforming them into really beautiful living spaces. So that was sort of our goal, was to create tiny living spaces, not necessarily for people to travel in, but to call home. And the owner of Tiny Tranquility, his name is Josh Palmer. He reached out to us because he wanted to buy one of our designs, which it had actually sold within minutes. So we told him that, sorry, it's sold. But then he said, hey, I have this idea of developing a tiny house village. Will you help me do my village? And we're like, well, that's not really what we do, but okay. So, and that was, like I said, about 7 or 8 years ago. And then we've been here with Josh and Tiny Tranquility ever since.
Wow, that's awesome. So the community itself is like 7 or 8 years old?
Yeah, I suppose the development phases are.
Okay.
The park is about 6 years old. About 6 years old at this point. So it was actually a foreclosed nursery. It was a very large nursery, and it was a mess, I will tell you. So the very first time we visited the park, Josh was walking us around, showing us the grounds, and it was such a mess that my husband and I were like, we don't see your vision here. But we trusted him, and he did it. He turned it into the most incredible community.
Well, yeah. I mean, I've watched YouTube videos about the community. I've heard a lot of really great things about it, especially with the location too.
Yeah.
So yeah, like for someone who doesn't know anything about Tiny Tranquility, like what do you offer? What does it sort of look like? Like what's the vibe? Where's it located?
So we are right on the Central Oregon coast, about 20 minutes south of Newport, which would be sort of our closest, biggest town. We are a 12.5 acre park, not only filled with tiny houses, but we also have a lot of community spaces, shared spaces. So you don't necessarily feel confined to your tiny houses because, to be honest with you, the weather here on the Oregon coast can be a little brutal. It can
Right. Yeah.
rain a lot in the winter. So
Mhm.
we want to have large community spaces that people have the opportunity to get out of their tinies, stretch their legs. We have a garden area where people can garden. It's this very large community garden greenhouse. So produce grows all year round. We have a lodge with a library, office area, pool table, ping pong table, darts, board games, along with a wood burning fireplace and really comfortable sofa area. We have a TV lounge if someone wanted to put on a game or put on a movie. We have a laundry facility, so the laundry is available here. I know that a lot of people love those stackable units or combo
Right.
units in their tiniest. But sometimes storage space is a little bit more valuable. So people will oftentimes take their washers and dryers out here at the park just so they can use our laundry facility. And then we also
Mhm.
have a place called Redwood Commons, and it's got an ocean viewing deck because we are that close to the ocean, and it has this
Wow.
really beautiful kitchen space for people to cook in if they don't have space in their tinies, or if they just want to do like something bigger, like a roast or a turkey or something.
Wow, that's awesome. The owner, it sounds like the owner really thought of everything. Like you're kind of describing like a really big, like, we need like new housing developments, like new apartment complexes where they have like the fire pits and they have the courtyards and they have all the different places for people to sort of interact. I think that makes
Yeah,
it a lot easier to create a community vibe. So it's not just like people living near each other, but they actually get the chance to interact and sort of like learn from each other. And I think that sense of security is really important when you have a tiny house. So, if you go on vacation, that you have these people all around you that are going to pay attention, look out for your house, look out for everything that you have there. So I think that that's really incredible. With the laundry
and that's
too,
exactly.
that's really something I would never think of because I do see everyone putting stackable washers and dryers in their tiny houses, but those are expensive and they take up a lot of space and they
Yeah.
do use some energy. They use up some resources. So yeah, I'm sure you're saving people time and money and just creating an extra community vibe for them too.
Exactly, especially with long term
Yeah.
living. You want
Mhm.
all of the
Mhm.
storage space that you possibly can. So just the fact that our residents here don't necessarily have to use the washer dryer that's in their tiny, they can just opt to use the laundry facility.
Right. So, as your role as like a manager, what's a typical day like for you? Like, what are some of the different things that you have to do in your day to day just to sort of like help the community run?
Well, we have a unique park here because most of our park, I would say two-thirds of our park, is filled with long-term residents. So they live here all
Okay.
year round. And then we have one row of tiny houses, including this one that I'm in right now, that are nightly rentals. So not only do people have an opportunity to come stay in a unique space just for like a beach weekend getaway, they're also really great for people who are thinking about going tiny. That
Right.
maybe they love the thought of it, but they've never stayed in a tiny house before. They're
Hmm.
not sure how they function. So we have a whole row of tiny houses with different features that people can choose from to come stay and just feel it out before they build their tinies or before they buy one. So a days never look the same here because we're dealing with all kinds of different I wouldn't say issues, we never really have issues, but different opportunities to sort of like talk to people, interact with people, whether they're from out of town or they live here long term. Yeah, you just really never know what the day is going to throw you. And I'll tell you what, I often play hooky because Tiny Tranquility is right across the street from the beach. So we just
Okay.
walk to the beach.
Yeah. I think that's incredible though, because I do think it's crucial for anyone that's considering going tiny to stay in a tiny house. Like I would tell anybody that, like stay in one overnight, do like an Airbnb for like a weekend. Because I think that people will be surprised by how much space there is, but also how much space there isn't. So like you do really need to sort of like prepare yourself if you're downsizing from a big place or just in general, so you understand like what 8.5 feet looks like
Yeah.
or 10 feet looks like compared to what it's not the same when you look at the pictures online. Like I think they're really great. They're great photos and they do give you a sense for what it looks like design wise, but it doesn't let you know what it's like to sort of like walk through it and live in it, day to day. And, even the lofts, whether you can stand in it, some of them you can't stand in. So all of that matters. So I think that's really awesome that you're offering the short-term rentals.
Yeah, no, it's really a great experience because some people, kitchen space is like a number one,
Mhm.
must have. And then other people really want a larger bathroom. We
Right.
have a lot of people here that are actually, I shouldn't say a lot, I should say mostly the people who live here within our community are retired. So,
Okay.
like this tiny house in particular has a ladder that attaches sort of right where I'm at to get up to the loft area. But
Mhm.
for a lot of the retirees, the ladders just aren't necessarily a safe option.
Right.
So give it a try. See if you think you're comfortable with staying in a tiny with a ladder, or would you prefer stairs?
Mhm.
There's a whole bunch of different options for these tinies.
Yeah. No, I think that's really great. It's really speaks to sort of like what you've like created and built there between like you and your husband and the owner too, that you have so many long-term residents. If someone was interested in joining your community, what would that process look like? Like say they wanted to be long-term, like what's the process for getting into your community?
So that is a tough question because our community, I just brag on our community here for a second. Our community is so fantastic and it's so not sought after. So not only do we have all the really incredible community space, we also have a dog park, we have a fire pit
Right.
area, we have a nature trail on site, so it's very safe. We
Mhm.
have so many things that our park is very desirable. So we currently have a 5-year waiting list to
Oh my
move
gosh. Wow.
into the park. And we've actually closed the waiting list just until it maybe shortens a bit, but not many tinies leave this park. So the spaces sort of what they are. But I will let you in on a little secret that nobody knows yet.
Sure.
We are in the process of purchasing another park.
Wow.
So we are hoping to have another park available. This one will be in Northern California, not too terribly
Okay.
far from us. So
Mhm.
about 3 to 4 hours drive just from where we're located. And I believe that one is going to have like 100 to 200 sites. So
Wow. Okay.
yeah, so we will have another space for people to put their tinies. So in the meantime, the only way to really get into this park is to purchase a tiny house that's already here because occasionally one will come up for sale.
Right.
And the person moving may not have a place to move their tiny, which I'm sure, as you know, is sort of the challenge with tiny
Right.
houses
Mhm.
is where to put them.
Yeah. It
And
is.
so for now, that's about the only way to get into the park since sites just don't become available. But we're hoping to have a whole bunch of sites available for people very soon.
Cool. Will that still be called Tiny Tranquility, or is that a different name?
That's a good question. That's a question for the owner, Josh Palmer. And if I could put my vote in, I wanted to call it Tiny Tranquility because it's who
It's a
we
good brand.
are.
It's a great brand.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so I don't know. That's my vote.
Okay. I see why you. I mean, well, no, it really has like a branding is everything, and I think that when I say Tiny Tranquility to anyone, they know what I'm talking about, right? So I
Yeah.
think that you are really the kind of like premier tiny house community because there are so many more popping up, and I think that you guys were really kind of at the forefront of the movement when it comes to the community side of it, and it is great to see so many tiny house communities coming up across all over the country. Like there's things going on in the South. There's things going on, here in California too, but you're right. Like land, there isn't, you can't like create more land. And I think that's
Yeah.
one of the things in the US that's probably the hardest part for either scoping out land to build a community. And then also for anyone that's interested in buying a tiny house, just where do you put it? I know that's a big issue down here. Like I'm in San Diego. It's one of the reasons why I haven't gotten a tiny house yet. Cause I'm like, well, where would it go? So
Yeah.
as the industry continues to evolve and like, people, create more space physically for them, I think we're going to see it just really kind of like explode because it makes the most sense at this point.
Yeah, especially with the housing market the way it is, right? So I feel
Mhm.
like this is such an incredible solution. Um, just unfortunately, the laws just haven't necessarily changed, the zoning laws, right?
Yeah,
So it is great to be able to have these large community spaces available for people to move in their tiny houses.
yeah. Since you've been doing this for a little while now, like, and the industry has changed quite a bit just in the past few years, what would you say is like the biggest change you've seen in the tiny house industry, like since the park opened?
Well, I think when we originally started developing Tiny Tranquility, I think we had this vision of maybe like young millennials, right?
Hmm.
Young millennials wanting to travel, wanting to downsize, wanting to have maybe a smaller footprint, right? Which is all still true. However, for Tiny Tranquility in particular, like I mentioned before, most of our long term residents are retired. And not only are they retired, but most of them are retired single women. So that
Okay.
is mainly what our community consists of. And I think because it is a safe space. So
Right.
we live within a safe community. And like you said, you always have people looking out for you, right? So whether you go out
Hmm.
of town and you need a pet sitter or you need someone to water your plants, or you just need someone to just check in on you, right?
Hmm.
So that's what we are here. I mean, we're all neighbors, we're all family. And so it really has just sort of turned itself into a really safe neighborhood. I actually sold a house at one point, a tiny house, and someone asked me if we had a neighborhood watch that came through here. I was like, we have about 35 of them, so it's like
Yeah.
it's just such a safe place. So maybe women who are going through a divorce or
Hmm.
wanting to downsize and move out on their own, but are maybe nervous about being out sort of like off grid in their tiny, they've been able to come here and have an entire community of people to not only do things with, but to just care for them and look out for them.
Yeah. I'm hoping that over time it can kind of at least provide an alternative, if not eventually kind of replace the nursing homes, because I feel like nursing homes create a different type of environment and it also sort of like makes people feel kind of sad.
Oh,
So like cuz
yeah.
it's like community, but it's a little bit different when someone like kind of like puts you somewhere and says like, okay, this is where you have to be, versus like, okay, maybe everybody here is in the same stage of life as me, but we still have that sense of independence. I
Yeah.
think that that probably just like makes people feel a little bit better as they sort of like shift into a different phase of like life and sort of like their aging years. So I'm not surprised by the fact that it's more like older populations, but I'm also surprised too as a millennial, because I really do sort of see us as kind of like trying to find ways to downsize and to make money but not feel like we're working too much. And a lot of us work from home, like I work from home. So like the tiny house movement makes sense for us, but
Yeah.
I also don't know if my generation just has like that kind of like doesn't really have the money right now yet. So maybe in like 5 or 10 years, we'll see more millennials
We
and
do
tiny
have
house
one
culture.
younger couple who lives here. I would put them maybe in the millennial category.
Hmm.
And that's exactly them, right? So they work from home, but they
Hmm.
love to travel. So they don't have this huge footprint, this huge mortgage that they're tied down to. They're able to leave their tiny and travel all over the world. I love
Yeah.
following them on Instagram. They're Tiny Lego Living on
Oh,
Instagram. So
cool.
if you guys want to follow them, they're very fun. They do the coolest adventures. And I always tell them like I'm living vicariously through them. But I think because they're not tied down to a huge mortgage. And so I
Mhm.
can see why a lot of people would want to live that way. And especially, they have a dog, one dog and two cats. And so they have an
Okay.
entire community of people here who look out for them when they're gone. Sometimes they take them with them, but yeah, I it's really an incredible lifestyle for anybody.
Yeah. No, I can see that. It's great to talk to people and see how much of a positive impact it's having on them. What would you say for someone who like what advice would you give to someone who wants to live in a tiny ass community but they have no idea where to start? What would you say to them?
Well, give us a call because we are about to have a whole new community that we could set you up in. But I think just look around. I mean,
Hmm.
know where you want to be. Sort of know like what part of the country you want to be in, and know what's important to you. So, is it location? Is it community spaces? I don't know. I mean, I think I'm a born and raised Oregonian. So it's kind of tough for me. It's like I want to be in Oregon. That's where I want to
Right.
be. And but for us in particular, so we're originally from the valley, and then as we were developing Tiny Tranquility with the owner Josh Palmer, we fell in love with the Oregon coast. So for us, we're like we want to be here. We want to be on the Oregon coast. So yeah, I guess just like anything else, right? You want to be in a tiny house. Maybe you don't know where to put it. Call tiny house communities, because
Yeah.
I can only speak for myself, but I love talking to people about this,
Right.
because those of us who love the tiny house movement, I think, love talking about
That's true. That's fair. I will talk to anybody. And
it.
I went to Tiny Fest in San Diego, here in San Diego, like last month, and that was awesome. Like, it was so much fun to talk to people. But I think that is good advice, because I do think that some people might be nervous to talk to people and ask questions, especially if they're not ready to make the decision yet. But yeah, I've found that everybody in the industry is really open to asking questions, and they want to see you succeed, and they want to make you happy. And there are enough options out there where, if you don't choose your like Tiny Tranquility, like, it's not like you're going to be like really, really upset that they go with someone else, because at the end of the day, we all just want everyone to find
Yeah,
their place, and there's plenty of room for everybody, in all these different spots that are opening up too. So that's
we
great
sort
advice.
of like all coexist in the same awesome
Yeah.
tiny house world, right? Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I haven't really felt like a sense of like competition or people like wanting to like withhold information, because I think it helps everybody grow. The more like helpful information people can get about the industry, then it can continue to grow, and we can sort of like protect people from the companies that maybe aren't as genuine. So I think that makes complete sense. That's really great advice.
Yeah, and I would go for builders too, right? Like, call all the
Mhm.
builders. And a great thing about our park in particular, I'm sure a lot of other parks are like this as well, is that we have builders from all over the country here in the
Right.
park. So we don't have just like one specific builder. We have a ton of different builders. So you do have an opportunity to see what they all look like, see what they feel like, check out their craftsmanship. Um, and I always suggest that people really do their research when it comes to tiny house builders, and I'm sure you
Mhm.
do too, because like you said, there are some that aren't so reputable, especially living here long term, and the park being about 6 years old now. We can see which tiny house builders have created spaces that maybe haven't held up as well as some
Oh,
others.
okay. Yeah. No, that makes sense. That's a really good point too, because some questions people have asked is like, how long do they last? And like, ideally, you would want it to last, for a very, very long time. So yeah, the quality and the sort of like, the love that's put into the build really does matter. And you can tell that a bit from the outside if you've done your research, but if you haven't, like, it can look really great on the outside and then not actually have any of the things you would need for it to survive an Oregon winter or rain, or the desert heat, which we have down here. Like, there's a lot of
Oh
different
yeah.
things to take into consideration with tiny homes, with
Yeah,
just the climate
exactly.
in general. Yeah.
Especially here on the coast, we've got
Mhm.
some tough winter sometimes or weather, I'm sorry, in the winter time. And so you really need to make sure a builder is aware of the elements regardless of where you're moving your tiny, so they can sort of craft it accordingly.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. Yeah. Well, thank you so much. I appreciate you taking the time to chat with me. Like, I think that everything that you said's been, really helpful. It's incredible. I'm a big fan of what you guys are doing, and links to the website and all the socials are in the video description, so people can check you guys out and
Thank you.
reach out and ask you questions. So yeah, I appreciate it, and just happy to have you on the channel. So I look forward to seeing how things continue to grow, with Tiny Tranquility in general.
Thank you so much. We'll have to have you out here sometime.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, definitely, for sure. Yeah, I would love to.
We would love that.
Right.
All right. Thank you
Yeah.
so much for having us on today. It was really
Yeah,
fun.
of course. Thank you. We'll talk soon.
Bye.
All right, so that's my conversation with Katie. I really appreciate Katie taking the time to talk to us about Tiny Tranquility. They are one of the OG tiny house communities here in the United States. They're in a fantastic location on the Oregon coast, right near the beach. A really cool community of people in the tiny house community itself, but also in the surrounding area. It says a lot that they have a 5-year wait list. It says that people are coming there, they're moving there, they're staying, and they found a home, which is what you want to see. It's what you definitely want to hear, right? So, but still, they do have something new coming up. So if you're interested and you want to learn more about Tiny Tranquility, you want to be one of those first people in their new location that's coming, please do take the time to look at their website. It's in the video description here. Look at their Instagram so you find out when new things are happening. You can get updates, reach out to Katie if you have questions. And then also, if you're new to this channel, please do take the time to subscribe, tap that button, tap the notification bell so you find out when I drop new videos. I drop new videos every single week, and don't forget to check out Poplar, Creak, Tiny Home Village as well too. Thank you so much for sponsoring this video. I really appreciate you guys. I'm really excited to see what they do as well. And as always, don't forget to think tiny. I'll see you guys in the next video.